Welcome to another podcast by Chainsaw Phoenix, aka David. I have with me a lovely guest from sunny Florida, Kristina.
Hello,
Kristina,
hello.
tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm Christina. Just as you mentioned, I'm currently in Florida, but I am a Midwest girl by heart. And so I'm a little bit of jack of all trades. I have an experience of probably anything you can probably think of, but I'll stay on track and just whatever you would like to discuss and tell the people about. But I'm just your average girl. Love to, I love sports.
Hmm.
Favorite sports team, I would say right now for basketball, I'm going to have to go with Boston. They're not the original big three like KG when he was there, but it's
Oh,
still one
yes.
of my favorites. So that's me, Midwest girl. Still very lovable, love to talk and help people achieve their financial goals, especially their financial goals, so that they can ultimately have time freedom. So that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. So, in all honesty, what got you into being able to seek out such a career or such a path in the financial district itself?
It really was, and this is going to sound awkward, but what really got me into the field of seeking the ability to help others with their financial goals is by me having everything on paper.
Mhm.
So I currently was working in corporate America. And if you looked at me on paper, my credit score is in the 800s. I have the house, I have the car, the payments, I don't have any payments. I look great on paper financially. But
Mhm.
what was missing was time freedom, having the ability to be with my friends, my family, that type of thing. And you can't get that when you're working for someone else because you're working for their dreams.
That's true.
So that technically is how I got into it. I wanted to have my own freedom, far as time and the ability to do the things that I wanted in my life. And because I already have a passion to help others, it kind of just spilled into that.
Mhm. So through those journeys of because there's always has to be a trigger point, in my personal opinion, of saying like, guess what? I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself. You mentioned that it looks great on paper, like credit score and so on and so forth. But in doing so, what financial freedom did you actually achieve, or what freedom did you achieve? Were you able to travel more? Were you able to pick up a hobby, like things like that?
After I achieved my goal of financial
Yes.
success,
Yes.
actually, when I achieved my goal of financial success while I was working for corporate America, I didn't have those things at all.
Mhm.
So it wasn't until I really the trigger point for me was it was several different times that I can pinpoint in my life. For one example, is when I was a corporate business trainer. So I will
Mhm.
go city to city, state to state, basically setting up the facility from beginning to end, making sure the PCs are there, all the software is correct. I actually created all the modules, did the action plans, and facilitated the whole training. It was exhausting, but
Mhm.
yet here I am in Honolulu. It's great. You're paying for me to be in this resort where people pay thousands of dollars to have. Same with Manhattan or Chicago. So it was the best places I was going to, and I was having what some people would say on paper the best life.
Yes.
But the trigger point for me was one day I remember very clear. I was short for time because you're working for somebody else. You're working to build their dream. So I was in Chicago, and usually my husband will come with me about a week after I travel. He'll come the second week. We'll stay the rest of the duration of my training there together, whatever state I'm in, and
Mhm.
then we will fly home together. So this particular time, I was in Chicago by myself, and it was an evening or something. And so we were FaceTiming each other at the time. And so he was FaceTiming, we're talking, and I'm just like, I'm listening to him, I'm engaged, but I'm like, babe, where are you at? He's like, I'm in the living room. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, you're not in our living room. Where are you? He's like, I'm in the living room. So at that moment, it dawned on me that the job has taken me away so much. Everything looks great. I couldn't even recognize my own living room because I
Wow.
wasn't home enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's so sad. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing if you're not doing it with the people that you enjoy. So that
Mhm.
was one of the tickers that was like, okay, something has to change because if I'm not home enough to recognize my own living room, this is a problem. And then it was just little times after that, it was triggering me saying, okay, you have to stay genuine to yourself. This is not you. It looks great on paper, but you like to help people. You like to make sure that you do things on your own schedule, your own time. And I wasn't doing those things. So that first moment and then the buildup of other events that took place was the trigger for me.
Wow, that is actually really interesting, and it's very true, because if you don't have that life work balance, things go out of whack. I know a lot of people, there's some people that work 12, 14, 16 hours a day shift, and they don't have time to see their family or their kids grow up. I'm not sure if you have kids or not, but even that could be heartbreaking as well. The fact that you don't even recognize your own living room says a lot, because that, to me, a living room is a place where you just go and you relax and you watch TV, especially with your significant other. So not recognizing all those things, that truly is a true trigger point itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. The great topic that everyone talks about nowadays is COVID. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves talking about it. So let's talk about it right now for a little bit, because to be honest with you, I'm just tired of it.
I think everybody might be.
Oh, of course. Has that put a damper on your goals, or has it set you back, or have you changed the way you've looked at certain things in any way?
That's a really good question. For me, I've always looked at, I'm gonna give you a phrase, and I think it's probably a common one people will say. Some people look at COVID as, live today as if it's your last day, because they see a lot of friends and family passing away from it, or just getting sick. Not too terrible for some people, but others might have horrible experience. My outlook is a little bit more, I always care about, at the end of the day, I want to make sure I make Jehovah's heart shine. So I'm always living for the day today as if this is the last day I can live in integrity, to hold up my integrity. So it hasn't dampened me because of that. It's always, every day, you never know what, like, for example, depending on when people are listening to this podcast, in the state that I live in, Florida, there was just recently a building that collapsed.
Yes.
Which is heart-wrenching, just so sad. But nobody saw that coming. So I kind of try to think about that, even though COVID is there. I try to think that anything can happen. I can go to the grocery store and something unforeseen can happen. But if I live today with integrity, then I have nothing to worry about. And then hopefully, while somebody else is going through a bad time, if they have COVID restrictions, then maybe I can make a little bit better with them. And that's kind of what trading comes in a little bit too. And it sounds odd, but you're living in a pandemic and things are just expensive. You have inflation like crazy right now. And so I don't really want to change what I eat and how I eat it. I don't want the limitations. So it's easy for me to say, I know where the money is. Don't stress out. Go do a couple trades and I can stay in balance. If a family member that lost their job because they're furloughed with COVID, instead of it being a damper, I can go show them how to do a quick trade. They're back up on the up and up. So that's how I kind of view COVID. It didn't damper me. It kind of made me more flexible to help others and myself.
Sounds like a very eye-opening situation, to be honest with you. I'm glad you actually said it, because to me, with COVID, this is how I created the podcast. With the free time that I have now, it's the fact that I could do something more than just sit at home and just do nothing, in a sense. So that's why I'm glad to know that there's other people out there that took that opportunity to grow, because this is the best time to grow. You can pick up a new skill, you can learn something new. So I'm very happy to hear that you've done that as well.
Thank you. And you know what it sounds like to me too, is that you and probably me, you and a whole lot of other people, we stopped fighting ourselves. You have to be genuine to yourself. And you probably thought, I'm not a person to do a podcast, but look, you're good at it. You're so comfortable doing it. So COVID kind of, like you said, it got a lot of us out of our shell. And I always think about how a lot of times time passed and you get a new industry or a new revolution. This is a new revolution. More people after COVID. If it's gone, it might be another pandemic that comes, but we are now creating our own spaces, our own ideals, our own dreams, which is huge. This is what people were doing when they were building trains, or building the computer for the first time. Like, now we are that generation to get in and actually make our own space.
I like how that sounds. I really do like how that sounds. I gotta ask you a question. Being someone, and I'm gonna throw a lot of things at you right now. Being someone of color, being a woman, any challenges starting up, and especially going to different corporations, saying, hey, do this, do that, do that. Therefore, you could have that financial freedom. Did anyone, in all honesty, look at you differently or treat you differently, or did you feel that effect? Because
Absolutely.
in honesty, again, being a woman of color, being a woman, I hear that again, it's harder for someone like you versus a male in that same industry to have success.
Absolutely. And I think this is what you're asking has always been something that shaped me my whole entire life from the time that I was in college. And I don't think I mentioned it, but what brought me to Florida was better opportunities as far as careers. Because when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in health service administration, there was not a lot of resources and jobs in the community that I was living in. So I wanted to take that extra leap and go somewhere where there was more opportunities. So now you're talking about a complete culture shock. I'm talking about there is not a lot of African Americans in general, or a lot of African American women that fit any description for me to get a position at a corporate office. So I literally started at the bottom, the lowest position you could have, and had to work my way up. So much so, about 4 or 5 years ago, I just completed 3 master's degrees. I have my master's in health service administration now, have my master's in informatics, and I have my master's in business. All 3 of these was something that my manager told me I could not do. When I went from the roles from a claim processor to provider rep to corporate trainer to business technical analyst, they told me that was something I could not do. And I remember the day that my manager, before I moved back to my hometown, my husband and I, we wanted to go back, have me work from home. Since I've been with this company at this time for probably about 13 years, no, probably about 12 or 11 years, to stay working from home in a different state, I should have proved myself by then, right? I'm like the top employee you guys got. I'm making your millions of money, dollars every week. He told me, you cannot move back. I will not allow you to work from home because I don't trust you and you're not good at what you do. Although all the data showed differently. So to this day, I am the only person that have broke records for this company. But that's just a little bit of the opposition that I had to face. I could have quit at that moment. I could have said, are you crazy? Look at the stats. Look what I did, you know. And of course, well, that was the person before you. It's just catching up now, you know. So there was so much opposition. It still is. Being a stock market strategist to this day, there's not a lot of Black women doing it. So they think, well, you don't know how to read a chart. You don't know how to do mass data. You can't understand what a gap is and how to trade off a gap, because these are technical things that maybe someone that is not, that doesn't look like me, that had to go to school for 7 or 8 years just to learn. So the challenge is definitely there, but I kind of feel like it's just fueling the fire to say, if I can do it, anybody that looks like me or don't look like me can do it. We all have opportunity.
Very, I love how you said that, because it's very true. And that's, I'm trying not to say something, but guess what? This is real. It's called Real Talk, No Filter. So I don't care. I believe that as African Americans or African Canadian, the fact that we see opportunity, and as soon as someone plants an idea saying we can't do it, we hold ourselves back.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to say that. That's why when I hear you say, when someone says that to you, you're like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. But not just that, I'm going to go higher and above that, which is fantastic. And I love that. And that's how we should be. And that's how our mindset should be. We're so, and again, just our culture, we're so back 400, 500 years ago. We're so stuck back in that. And I find that we hold ourselves accountable. And we have to realize, guess what? Those days are in the past.
Exactly.
And yes, it sucks to say that yes, when you see today's, a lot of things are happening to us. You see the Black Lives Matter movement and so on and so forth. Yes, these are very important things, but we cannot have those things hinder us for our potential. And I find that those things are doing that. And just, it's just a handful of us that are saying, yes, we understand, we see it, we observe it. But despite all that, we're still going to achieve more, just to show that, guess what, we are great. So that's why I'm, and like I said, this is real talk. And this is what I like
Yeah.
about this podcast.
And everything you said resonates with me. And a lot of people don't realize that what you're doing, what I'm doing, what anybody else that's trying to do something to make their own space. You mentioned, you said a phrase that we're hundreds of years, 400 years behind. We are. And again, I have to go back to the small town that I was born and raised, that I love, and I still probably will go back and live there before I die. You know, I love my town. But one thing I recognize, and I'm just being honest, it's a Black city.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of resources still to this day. The only way I can help change that is by teaching the people the things that I didn't know. See, you learn stock market and how to do trading when you're in prestigious high schools and prestigious colleges. We don't have that in our communities. So
Mhm.
that's another reason why we're so far behind. We think when we have our bills that are just piling up, and it's so hard to catch up with bills and to get our credit score straight, you know, that we have to go work 3 jobs. Like you mentioned, you're working all these jobs just to pay the bills, but your kids are growing up without you. Your sons don't have a fatherhead that's around. There's a trickle down impact because we don't have the resources to just be normal.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, and taking that time, taking that mother or that father out of the household because they have to do work and not be there for them with their homework, or just when they had a bad day at school, or just the little things that embeds into that child growing up, that they have to do the same thing. I got to work hard. I have to pay the bills. As long as I'm doing it, you don't see me, it's fine. And so it's a conditioned type of mentality or thought process that we start having, instead of saying, wait a minute, I don't need multiple jobs. The answer is I need to make more money. The
Yep.
answer is I need to make more money faster in a legit way that will help me and my family. Then I need to teach them how to do the same thing so they can have generational wealth and we won't have to worry about it.
Yep.
And to this day, which is sad, like you said, most unfortunate, anybody living in the poverty areas or African Americans, we don't have that. And that shouldn't be something that's still a hidden secret. Go out there and just ask somebody you see in the grocery store, hey, did you do a stock today? They would look at you like you're crazy. But if it's one of their buddies that walk up, they're going to share what stocks they're doing for the week.
Mhm.
You know, it's like an inside key. So that is a big problem that we have to fill the gap. We can't do it, of course, overnight, but it's a step-by-step process. And the more that we fill it, the more financial literate we will be, so that we can actually make solid decisions. Even like with credit report, people don't understand stock market is even tied to our credit. The credit report has a certain rhythm that they do. It doesn't matter if you pay bills off right away. Sometimes it doesn't do anything to your credit score.
No, it doesn't. Yep.
Why? Because if you got a house that you just paid off that's $150,000, you just close the gap on having $150,000. So now you're actually going to have a lower credit score if you don't have something else to fill. But we don't know these things because we're not educated on financial literacy. So it's vital that we get this into our communities, get this to the young people, let them take and run with it.
And I 100% I agree with you. I'm going to touch base on stocks and what you mentioned for finance, but I have a quick question for you. Do you think that the government itself, again, this is real talk, do you think the government is holding us back because you said certain resources are not there for African Americans within their community? Or do you think it's just an overall procedure by them?
The honest answer is not, I'm not trying to go around the question because it's going to sound like it for a minute, guys, but I'm not. It's technically yes to both of them, but I think it's strategic. I think that a lot of what we see is politically influenced, and because of different cities and different states having different political influencers, it has a roundabout effect on the government as a whole. For example, our schooling systems, how during COVID, most kids in different areas, they don't even have an iPad or a simple pad, period, to do their homework, so they fell behind. Just something that simple is strategically done to keep those set of kids behind, so that when COVID goes away, you're so far behind, you know, that gap is there, and it's too much for you to fill that gap. Whereas if you're in a very well-off area where your political influencers are making sure during COVID, you're getting all the free resources, you're making sure that they don't lose their job because they can have the ability to work at home and things of that nature, that household is more stable. You probably got a nanny to help out with your kids when you go to work. Or you're probably able to be a mother and stay at home and work from home with flexibility while your kids are there and you're helping your kids. Whereas someone that doesn't have that from the other community, they can't. You just lost your job because you couldn't show up.
Yep.
You know, now you got more stress in the household and tension. So those type of things I think are strategically done. And as an overall effect, yes, it does come down to the government support.
I liked how that sounded. That was fantastic. Going back to something that you mentioned, and this is where I'm going to go against what you said as well. And then we'll move on to that. What I was going to say after. You mentioned that it's great to have a lot of money, and it's therefore you could buy this and buy that and be able to assist with your upbringings and assist with your family and so on and so forth. Do you find, especially being in as a business coach, do you find that, have you ever noticed that people have all this money, but they waste it and they're not saving it? And you like, wait, you have 6-figure salary. How come you have so much debt? How come you're still begging for money? How come you still have loans and so on and so forth? And if so, how did you counteract them? Like what advice would you give those people to be financial free and actually manage their money more appropriate?
That is an awesome question. So the way that how I can help them, really kind of going back to just finance 101 to see how things are done, because to address that, a lot of people that have businesses and when they're in debt and say they're making 6 figures, it's because they're just not good risk managers in general. They're all over the place. And it sounds to me like someone in that type of environment or situation, you really have more so of privilege in a sense, because someone that has no credit or a lack of credit that's making 6 figures can't even rack up debt to do anything, can't even get another loan to do anything. So you probably have a better privilege to where you do have these open lines of credits and things of that nature, to where you can max them out, but still make that much money and be, in a sense, not understanding how to make that debt work for you. Now, the simple thing I would say to help them get over that hurdle, if that's them, they have to get a plan, have to make a budget. One, you got to get a budget in place. After you have a budget in place, you have to have a payoff plan. After you have a payoff plan, then you have to have what I call a debt consolidation plan. So the debt plan and debt consolidation plan, they're a little bit different. The debt plan is just basically you taking a Excel spreadsheet, saying I owe $1,500 for my car. Then you breaking down that $1,500, how much you can pay each month until you get to that payoff. Whereas when you do a consolidation plan in general, now you're trying to make other things that people don't know about work for you. So perhaps you own a home. Maybe you got $150,000 on your home. Well, how about you save up $20,000, put $20,000 down, all toward the principal, and let that debt go down. Or if you have that open line of credit still because you've been maxing them, kind of like robbing, how does the saying go? You rob from Peter to pay Paul.
Yep.
So use a credit card, take $20,000 off that credit card, pay it towards your principal. Once you pay that credit card back off, do the same thing over. You'll probably pay off your house in 2 years because of the compound interest. So I would try to get them to understand the different methods or strategies that they can utilize with a consolidation plan by using the credit that you already have available and open to your advantage by applying certain things in a compound way to the principal. That way it works better for you. You're not opening up any new lines of credit and everything is still the same on your plate. So, and believe it or not, I do have a freebie on my website that actually have just those two things, a budget and a consolidation plan already created. And the formulas are all there. So all you have to do is just plug in your own individual numbers. But that's how I would address that, because it sounds to me like they don't understand how to get their credit to work for them so they can pay it down while making a good amount of money.
Sounds good. That's excellent advice. After our podcast, if you're able to give me the website, I'll add
Absolutely.
it on. I'll add it on the podcast for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
I have one more thing for that. I was going to tell you, just so that everybody knows, you don't have to make a ton of money. Like for me, believe it or not, like getting rich is not one of my goals at all. It's just not. I like to just be comfortable when I have things paid off and I have no stress, because when you owe, it's kind of like you're a slave to whoever that debtor is. So I still look at money as just an overall protection. And the key is, if you know where the money is, it's almost like teaching a man how to fish. He'll never go hungry. So you don't have to just like gobble it all up at one time and keep getting money, 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 money. No, because if you spend more time making money all the time, like even in the stock market, you see people that day trade just continually like for 8 hours. No, who wants to do that? If I don't want to sit at a desk for my 9 to 5, why would I do the same thing for trading? You know, so the key is learning the shortcuts, the quick trades and things of that nature. And the same with anything you do in life, so you can have that time freedom and you have the financial freedom to where you're not feeling stressed out and you can live a better quality life.
I like how that sounds. And that's why, and it's funny how you mentioned the word rich, and what you're pretty much talking about is wealth. And I'm actually going to do a solo podcast, or maybe I you know what, I was thinking about just doing a podcast solo of the difference between success and being successful, which I also untie it with being rich and being wealthy. And those two, it's very interesting. So you know what, I might have you on that podcast when I actually do it. So just stay tuned for that one. Last but not least, my final question is, what is a stock market strategic? I have no clue what that is.
Is basically someone that can help you take your current income and I'll show and teach you how to overall utilize the stock market as a benefit to grow your current income. So I strategically show you how to utilize the stock market to grow income or to save for retirement, whatever you need, that financial goal will smash it that way. And so that's basically what that means.
So now that you say that, anyone that's listening, and I'm listening very carefully, if you had to pick one stock that's going to blow up in the next like 5 years, which one would it be?
Oh, that is a really good question. There are so many.
Besides crypto.
Well, and crypto comes and go. Yeah,
yes.
Crypto does come and go. This is, guys, I don't hold my feet to the fire. This is just my personal opinion. AMC. I've made a ton of money off of AMC.
Yes.
And it is not a good company. So I will be very transparent. In my course, I teach that Stock Market 101 is find good companies. You find good companies. When you find good companies, if you're making like a legacy portfolio, then you put those good companies in your legacy portfolio and you hold them for at least a year. If you're trying to trade off of them, you know, you start off with a good company. If they great company, but they just so happen to have something to influence them, like current events or something, and they drop down in price. So you're buying it and you're selling it as an option because something just influenced it, but it's still a good company. That being said, AMC right now is not a good company. But the reason why I mention them is because they're almost like a phoenix. They literally were done, bankrupt, and all of a sudden, because of so many people rallying together and rallying up their stock value, they're actually alive now. And I have a lot of AMC theaters in my area. And so many people are like literally supporting them, still going to the theater. They don't want them to go anywhere. So I look at it like AMC could possibly be the next Google.
Really?
People could possibly continue to go to the movie theater and love on AMC and get them back to where they need to be. And instead of being a $15 to $30 stock, it may literally be $1,000 stock in 10 years from now, you know. But so that's how I look at AMC. That's one of my favorites. And that's because me and my husband, we have a thing, you know, we go to the AMC movie theater when nobody's there before 12 guys.
Oh, me too.
Having your own theater.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Like I usually go between like a Wednesday and a Thursday, and it's like early morning, or like you're right, like as soon as it opens, there's nobody there. Therefore, it's just you get the best seats, everything is fine, fresh food, everything. It is perfect doing that way. That is
I want that to stay alive. Yes. So I might be a little biased.
Well, you heard it here. If AMC goes up to $1,000, you heard it here first. So that's perfect prediction. Do you have any questions or anything you want to add?
No, just I enjoy your podcast. Please keep it up. Everything you bring is so much insight to the people. So we need more of this.
you will get more. Don't worry about that. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I will talk to you very soon. So stay tuned. Take care.
Thanks.